Hello there, Ben Bowers, the Spirit Specialist, and I'm here today to talk to you about Indri Drew. This is the cask strength release from the Indian Single Malt Whisky distillery. I have already done a video on Trini, which was their sort of first release that came into the UK. Drew came out not long after. I've already done a video on Trini, really enjoyed it, absolutely impressed, and unfortunately it disappeared from the UK for about a year to 18 months. Basically, the distributor for the UK originally was Gordon MacPhail, who I used to work for. There were several changes through the business. This was after I'd left, and they basically dropped the distribution and there wasn't anybody else picking it up. So for a while, it wasn't available, but now it's come back. It's with a new distributor who I also use, called Mangrove, who are absolutely brilliant. And I now have Trini and Drew back in stock. So having done the video on Trini, which I will put a link to in the show notes, let's look at Drew, which is their cask strength bottling, but also in terms of the maturation kind of combination is different to Trini as well. So before I tell you what this tastes like, let me give you some background information about the distillery and also what the difference is between this and this.
In 1994, a hospitality and entertainment business named Piccadilly set up a sugar mill and distillery in a quaint village named Indri, 150 miles north of Delhi and near the base of the Himalayas. India is the biggest consumer of whisky in the world, but the vast majority of whisky made in India is actually produced with molasses, making it essentially a rum and meaning it can't be sold outside of Asia as whisky. However, Indri is the fourth Indian brand to release single malt whisky in Europe, following Amrut, Rampur and Paul John. As with the latter, Indri uses indigenous 6-row barley, which has been grown for hundreds of years in Rajasthan. It produces a smaller yield, but arguably more depth of flavour. 90% of their output is unpeated, with one peated run taking place every 3 months. Due to the extreme climate, Indian distilleries can lose up to 15% of each cask annually through evaporation. But because of the increased interaction between spirit and wood during this time, there is an argument to say that maturation is more impactful despite the shorter time spent in cask. The word Indri is also a derivation of the Sanskrit word Indris, which denotes the 5 senses. Production of single malt whisky at Indri first started in 2012 and was eventually overseen by Surinder Kumar, who is considered by many to be the forefather of Indian single malt whisky after serving as master distiller and blender at Amrut from 2006 to 2014. Graham Bowie, who previously worked with Angus Dundee and was the first distillery manager for Ardnah Merkin, joined in 2020 to be involved with the final blending of the initial release and now runs the distillery operations. In Sanskrit, Drew means wood, a tree, or a vessel made from wood. In ancient Indian mythology, Drew was a vessel in which a ritual drink called soma was collected and offered to the gods. Indeed, the Celtic word druid stems from that Sanskrit and translates to immersed in the oak tree. The first release from Indri, named Trini after the Sanskrit for 3, was a combination of spirit matured in ex-bourbon casks, along with barrels which had previously held either Pedro Jimenez sherry or French red wines, and it was bottled at 46% ABV. Indri Drew, on the other hand, uses spirit matured solely in selected ex-bourbon casks, and it's bottled at a cask strength. No age statement is given, and it has an ABV of 57.2%.
Okay, so Trini, Sanskrit for 3, so we've got the 3 wood, 3 different types of casks being used for maturation, bottled at 46%, whereas the Drew is cask strength and is just ex-bourbon barrels, and that is it. So this is 57.2%. Now, whereas the Trini comes in a tin with the kind of random cloth bag around it, which I'm still surprised that they've not got rid of to try and save costs. You get it in a tin and they all have these, I say cloth, it's kind of like that weird like recycled paper that feels like cloth. With the Drew, you actually get a rather impressive box. It looks like it's wood, but it is cardboardy, kind of plastic covered cardboard, but it is a really nice package as well. In terms of the price point, the Trini, $44.99. It was $39.99, but as with everything nowadays, the price has gone up slightly. So that's now $44.99. So the Drew is coming in at $74.99. Now, I have some sample stock, fortunately, which enables me to do this video of the Drew, but I also have a little bit of the Trini as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to remind myself, because it is quite a while since I did the video, and it's quite a while since I've actually had any Trini, A, in stock, and B, for me to try, because I had a very small sample of it. So really fruity, immediately on the nose. That particularly that PX cask influence comes through straight away off the bat. Big raisiny, big fruitcake. The red wine element starts to come through on the nose. It's big, it's bold, it's fruity. And what got me the first time I tried it, and it still comes through now, particularly on the finish, on that back half and on the finish, a wave of tropical fruit comes through, which I'm sure is the house style of the new make. Friend of mine, Craig Watson, who used to be a brand ambassador for Paul John and Macmira, is now currently out of the whiskey business, either or. I wouldn't be surprised if he comes back in at some point. A really nice guy. He had some discussions with Indri about becoming a brand ambassador for them. And he was telling me that the new make really does have this tropical fruit feel going all the way through. So it'd be very interesting to see whether that is picked up on the Drew as well, particularly with just being ex-bourbon, because I think the sweetness of the PX kind of accentuates that mango, passion fruit, papaya, that sort of feel that's coming through. But it's a belting whiskey. It's really, really good. You really can tell the three cask types that are being used. They're separate, but they marry together brilliantly. It's a fantastic whiskey, and yes, there's now another £5 on top, but it's still really good value for money. It's absolutely fantastic. So let's go to the Drew. Now, I've got some water because I have had a little sip of this previously, and I did feel like it needed some water, but plus it'll also cleanse my palate as well. So, the Drew, which, as I say, is just ex-bourbon barrels. That is it. Well, from what I'm being told. Now, in terms of ages, don't know. No idea. Paul John was exactly the same. Roughly 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, something like that. Because of the hot climate, they're losing a lot through evaporation. But the argument is you're getting faster maturation because you've got more interaction with wood, that sort of thing. So there is no age statement on any of these. And despite looking in various places, I still couldn't find any kind of concrete, this is what the age is on average, or it's between this age and that age. I'm guessing an average of about 5 years old, 6 years old, something like that. But that's really based on my previous experiences with Paul John and Amrut as well. So anyway, the whiskey itself. Now, I am going to do a bit of a side-by-side. I've got a tiny, tiny little bit of Trini left. Whereas Trini is really sweet and upfront and very like stewed prunes and raisins. Drew is much spicier. There is still a sweetness there, but it's slightly to the background for more of it's dried cinnamon, chili flakes. There's a dry spice now. Now, obviously a degree of this is going to be the higher alcohol content as well. But it doesn't feel it doesn't nose as fruity. It's definitely lighter, but you do get more of a vanilla note coming through as well. I'm starting to almost get a feel of bread and butter pudding studded with raisins. There's a slight custardy note coming through. Now, the alcohol doesn't dominate, to be fair. I just think because of the higher alcohol percentage, it is lightening the notes that are in there. And once I put some water in, I'll probably go back to it as well. If you remind me, because I'll probably forget. Right, on the palate. That tropical fruit note is absolutely there. Tropical fruit is the house style of Indri. It's totally there. In fact, it's probably the forefront flavour. And I'm assuming that's because I'm looking out the window because Sod's Law says I get a delivery. It's due between 9:30 and 10:30, and it's now 9:27. So I can guarantee somebody is going to knock on the door in 2 minutes. Anyway, I know that ex-bourbon cask, that lighter vanilla note is pushing that tropical fruit note right to the front. Now, what's interesting is when I had a little sip of it, when I got the sample stock from the Mangrove rep, Owen. Cheers for that, buddy. I tried a little bit and I was like, oh, Jesus, this is hot. This feels really hot. You know, this feels like a 57% that's actually tasting like a 65, almost near 70. It felt really, really hot. And I was like, oh dear, is the alcohol content overpowering the flavour? Now, I didn't have it in the glass for that long, but I literally had some other stuff to do and I was like, I'll just take a little nip of it just to see what it's like. Oh, blimey, that's hot. Totally the wrong way of tasting anything. This is nowhere near as hot. The alcohol content is high, but that tropical fruit flavour really goes for it. Vanilla's coming through, vanilla custard, but this isn't bread and butter pudding with kind of like the charred bits of the bread, the really rich custard, and then that like lots of raisins and dark fruits and all the stewed prunes and everything that you get from that PX and those red wine casks. This is mango, papaya, passion fruit, all sorts of stuff going on with a vanilla cream underneath. It's a little bit like a tropical fruit tart. So you've got a nice kind of like fairly light short crust pastry. You've got a vanilla cream, not necessarily custard, but like a vanilla cream, maybe creme pat, something like that, a little bit lighter than a creme pat. And then you've got some tropical fruits over the top. So you've got like a bit of mango, you've got maybe a passion fruit sauce drizzled over the top, you've got some papaya in there. The fruitiness is absolutely fantastic. And then the cask strength element is sprinkling some cinnamon, almost like chili flakes over the top of it as well, just to kind of zing it. Oh my God, this is good. This is really good. Now, I am going to put some water in it, but it is drinking really well neat. And I think because of the intensity of those tropical notes. I'm going to be saying tropical fruit a lot, but that is the overriding. There's a lot of mango coming through now. There really is mango more than anything else. And I love mangoes. I think this is really, really good. Considering my very first experience of this was like, ooh, maybe they've got a little bit OTT. So I don't have a lot left in here, so I'm going to put a couple of drops in because I don't think it needs a lot. Interesting. Just adding a little drop of water. There's a little bit more oak coming in. That vanilla oak from the ex-bourbon casks is starting to come in on the nose. The fruitiness is just tempering down slightly. You're getting a little bit more vanilla and oak coming through. It's knocking back the dry spice, but it's still keeping it on a slightly drier level. It's becoming more classically whiskey, for want of a better phrase. It's going into a slightly fruity space cider, but it's not as tropical as it was. More vanilla. Again, mango more than anything now. Having added water to it, it's more mango, vanilla. This is sweet. This is a sweet whiskey, not liqueur, but I think this is going to be too sweet for some people. But if you like a fruity note, if you like mangoes, passion fruit, papaya, pineapple, all sorts of things like that, quite a bit of pineapple in here. Real kind of lilt feel. Lilt, the soft drink, I don't know if that's UK only, was, what was that? Mango and pineapple? Or pineapple and something. It's got that vibe of pineapples and mangoes, and it's really, really good. Does it need water? Not necessarily. I think it just opens it up slightly, but that has really surprised me based on that first nip that I had that was just the wrong time to be trying it. And also really pleasing me that what I considered was a key house style of Indri, is this what Indri is? This is what is going to make you try it blind and go, oh, that's Indri, because there is that flavour profile. Absolutely continues in here. And the ex-bourbon accentuates that. The Trini, with the use of particularly the PX and the red wine cask, gives you a whole extra dimension. And I could almost say that Trini is more interesting because you've got these other elements. You've got this dark fruit element from the PX. You've got that red berry note coming through from the wine casks. There's a lot more going on with Trini. There's a lot more depth and weight. But what the Drew does is absolutely highlights the core style, that new make spirit that's coming through. This is what Indri is, this tropical fruit flavour. And then the Trini is going, we're going to take the tropical fruit flavour, and we're going to add some other things onto it and make something really interesting. And it's possible that they've decided not to go with a cask strength version of Trini because it's just too much. There's too much going on with it. And if you start increasing the alcohol content as well, you know, they're already bottled at 46. It might just be a bit of a cacophony of noise. Whereas with the Drew, they've gone, we are going to highlight what we are about. We're not going to prat around with putting other cask finishes and everything like that on it. We are going to highlight at cask strength what our core flavour profile is of this distillery. Passion fruit, mango, pineapple, papaya, tropical fruits. Absolutely brilliant stuff. And then we're just going to underlay that with a little touch of vanilla cream, just as a base, just so that it's not just tropical fruit. What an absolute belter. It's so good. Now, they also have a bottling called Diwali, the Diwali Collector's Edition. So Diwali, which is the Festival of Lights, which is end of October, beginning of November every year. They do an annual release, as far as I'm aware. I did manage to get a couple of bottles of Diwali, literally a couple of bottles. I have allocated them out already. That is a peated version, and I'd be very interested to see what that's like. I didn't even get a sample of that because there are so few bottles of it. I think it's 421 bottles, and that's it. And I got 3. I got 3, and they went straight out to customers that had already purchased some of these because when I knew Indri was coming back in, I put it out there and kind of did an advanced purchase thing and sold a lot. But because I'm an idiot, I put it on a price cut, so I didn't actually make much money on it at all, which was great. Well done, Ben. But the Diwali edition, if you can find it somewhere and you get a chance to try it, or if anybody out there would like to send me a miniature of it, because I'm really intrigued to see what this is like as a peated version as well. That kind of tropical fruit and smoke, that could be something really, really special. But yeah, it would be a bit cheeky of me if I sold a bottle of Diwali at, it was about 150 quid, and somebody received a bottle in the post having paid for it, and it turns out that it's been opened and there's a little bit taken out of it for me to try. But there we go. Anyway, the Drew is brilliant, and you get that kind of really good package. Is the price point fair? Yes, I think so. I think for the complexity that's in there, for the unusualness of it, for the packaging that you get, I think it's absolutely comparable to other cask strength stuff that's that similar price, kind of Scotch and American. You know, if that was a bourbon in that packaging with that flavour profile, it would probably be kind of pushing 100 anyway. Let's face it, the way the market's going. But it's a belter. I'm so impressed with Indri already, and they've only released basically 2 into the market. I'd love to see what else they can do with this range. I'm loving this flavour profile. I can't really think of anything that's got a similar house style, and that also impresses me. I love distilleries that can find a little kind of niche, or niche if you're American, find a little niche of a flavour profile and go, this is what we're going for. You know, Wireworks has its character. Filey Bay has its character. Certain distilleries, you know, Lockley has that grain character. Well, a lot of new young distilleries are finding this character that's kind of separating them from everyone else and sticking with that and going in different directions, but keeping that core flavour profile as their identity. So good. Really impressed. I have stock available. It is available to purchase through the website, www.spiritspecialist.com. I highly recommend you get a bottle of, if not the Drew, then the Trini. And I shall see you at the next video. Cheers.